Hi everybody, welcome to Bethesda Unpatched. I am Joe the Wigit, and I am joined by the man who makes this show what it is, Mr. Space Trucker Extraordinaire Extreme Kilo.
That's a lot of credit, man. I'm not sure I'm ready for all that responsibility.
Well, I had to put you on your toes on this episode.
You're setting the bar really high for episode 1 here, man.
Or is it low? We've been recording for 7 months now, 8 months, something like that together. Well, actually longer than 10, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you set that bar all on your own.
The low one or the high one?
Both, depending on the day.
Okay, copy. Got you.
We've got a lot to go into tonight. We do have a special guest tonight. We'll get to him in just a second. We're going to be talking about Starfield, Fallout 76. We've got a lot of things in the news and a couple things going on our Discord, which we'll get into our Discord. We don't have a Discord name yet because we don't have it boosted enough to do that. But we do have a link tree. We'll get to that. You'll hear all that stuff at the end of the show. But for now, we're going to go ahead and introduce our guest, which I completely forgot to even ask him what he wants to be called on the air. Because I'm a professional.
That's a good question. You can go with Zurich or Richard, which is my name, and the other is my online alias. Both are fine.
Cool. We'll just go with Richard.
Okay.
That's fine.
Richard works.
It's easier for me to remember.
That's true.
So, our guest tonight is one of the co-founders, correct?
Yep.
And I want to say lead writer?
That's also correct. Good job.
Yeah, for Kinggath Creations. And that, for everyone who doesn't know, is living underneath a rock, is the people responsible for the Watchtower.
And McLaren's Outfitters.
Yes, and that one too. And quite a few other ones. There's another one that you guys did for Skyrim I really want to check out that I've been meaning to load up and play. The Bard one?
Yes, we actually
Bard's
did
College.
2 for Skyrim. We have the Bard's College expansion and East Empire expansion. But they're both expansions.
So we're just going to dive into it. I know my fellow host over here has written down quite a few questions, and I think they're pretty awesome. So I'm going to let him take the lead on that.
All right. Well, this is episode 1, and I thought it'd be interesting if we asked every guest a very specific question. So we're going to start out pretty easy. Richard, what is your all-time favorite Bethesda game?
Oh, easy. Yeah, okay. See, there's many reasons to like a game.
Sure.
And I think I'm going to have to go with the game that kind of means the most to me, and that's going to be Fallout 4.
Okay, well, I have to follow up on that. Why does it mean the most to you?
Because it's what got me started on the path to where I am now. That's how I joined the sort of Kinggath team, and it's probably the Bethesda game I've spent the most time in, not because I've played it the most, but because I've worked on it the most.
Okay, I understand that completely.
Yeah, it's your baby.
Yeah, I'm an ex-video game designer, and I still go back and mess around with those games I worked on and spent countless hours of my life doing.
Yeah, Fallout 4, it has many issues. I'm not going to pretend it's the best Bethesda game ever, but to me, it's special, and I enjoy it. I can still go play it, even without the some of the bells and whistles that some of the games I've got at this point. So, yeah, honestly, it means something to me.
Every game has its errors and issues. Every single game does. And what makes a game special is what your experience of it is.
Absolutely. I would have to say Fallout 4 as well. And the reason is it leads up to us having this conversation because that was the first game that I ever tried to use mods on. And then it became an obsession.
Now he's kind of our mod master for the shows. If anyone has any questions about mods or anything, he's the one that brings them up. And normally on episodes, we'll have a list of a few mods that we recommend. We don't have to recommend Watchtower. We've both been playing it. And I know a lot of our listeners have as well. And it is, and I said it on a previous show, that I stand by this, is that Watchtower is the expansion that we needed. I know it's not an official expansion or anything like that, but it feels like it, plays like it, looks and smells like it.
Absolutely.
That's always our aim with anything we make. It needs to feel vanilla, as if it could have been in the base game, but we have the advantage of seeing the finished game, so we can see, areas that are missing or maybe some features we want that aren't quite there yet. So we get to go in after the fact and kind of add that plus to it. So our stuff always aims to be vanilla plus, if we can.
That is absolutely nailed it. I would want to take it back a little bit because I'm curious. Before you started working for Kinggath, you're a writer. What did you write before?
Technically, I didn't really write before. So, long story short, I got into doing what I do now because I was taking somewhat of a change in what I was doing for work. My background is in theatre, and then I went into trying to do stuff in front of a camera. Didn't really like it that much. And then I thought, hey, voice acting, that's fun. And it's kind of like what I did before.
It's a blast.
So I actually it's fantastic. And it gets you more roles as well. Like I didn't mind being typecast in what I did previously because it was always for fun roles.
Right.
But you can kind of only play what you look like. But with voice acting, as long as you can do the voice, you can do the character most of the time. So I thought that was a good way to go. And so I started trying to sort of build up my portfolio in voice acting, and I auditioned for a bunch of things, including mod projects, and that's how I got on Sim Settlements, which is a thing made by Kinggath, and he was making Sim Settlements 2, and I came on to do some voice. It was either voice work for that or voice work for Conqueror, which was sort of a previous expansion to Sim Settlements 1, and I saw something in the team that I thought, you know what, I want to stick around on this. This seems like something I want to be part of outside of voices. And so I asked, like, is there anything else I can do? And it just so happened that they lost someone who was a co-writer and asked, did I have any experience in that area? Not really. But I'd done some work in sort of helping people improve scripts. The only thing I had experience-wise was helping people come up with more natural-sounding dialogue. And incidentally, that was the problem they were having. So I went in and sort of punched up a script they have, or had. Gaff liked it. And so I was given the opportunity to be a co-writer, and that kind of went on to becoming full writer, and then I was the lead writer for most of the project since. So it's kind of an accidental evolution.
Wow.
Yeah,
I gotta one. Seriously. I was trying to say back then my youngest is he's a writer, he's very creative, he's deep into theater. He's gonna geek out over this conversation. And I gotta say, the dialogue was one thing that I wanted to bring up because I do find it so well done. It's just all the characters that I've come across are absolutely great.
Most story expansions I've ever played, I always start cringing as soon as their own dialogue comes into play, and normally it's very, very poorly done. Normally. But yeah, there was a couple little things in Watchtower that made me cringe a little bit, but most of it was fantastic. It looked like it belonged in the game.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. One of the benefits we had on working on like Sim Settlements 2, which was a free mod project for Fallout 4, is we had as much time as we needed to work on that. So we had like half a year sometimes to write some of those quests, which means you have a lot of time to go back and sort of polish things and test things. And if something isn't working, as long as we haven't recorded it yet, we can tweak it. We discovered on Creations, which is more business-like, you don't have that much play. You can't indefinitely work on something. There has to be a release date. And so often there are certain areas where once we've released, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I should have put more work on that. Or just this line, it bugs me. I wish I could go change it. And it's like, well, I could change it, but it's out there now. And is it really worth getting the voice actor back and redoing all that?
Right.
And the answer most of the time is no. But yeah, there's always stuff like that in our projects where I just wish I'd gone back and just did one more draft of that line because it could have been better.
Every creator is their own worst critic every time.
I was also going to say the other platitude is no piece of art is ever finished, only abandoned.
That's very true.
So I'm wondering, okay, so you do this writing, you obviously do excellent dialogue. The narrative so far, I'm only about 3-4 hours into it. I am enjoying the narrative, but you did something interesting not too long ago. You did a charity stream where you basically, if I'm correct, you built a mod on the stream.
Yes.
Or
technically.
Okay.
So the way it works, or worked, and will be working again because we're doing it again this year, is we have a week or two before, we have like a stream where we allow the viewers to basically vote on what's going to be in this thing. So we have a bunch of people who will be working on it. Some of them are implementers, some of them are model makers, some of them, like me, are writers, and some of them are voice actors, including one particular voice actor who was kind enough to join us last year and is joining us this year, which is Wes Johnson. And it's part of the charity Fallout for Hope, and it's raising money for Alzheimer's. And so the idea is we throw out to the audience, here's a bunch of story ideas, here's a bunch of character ideas, here's a bunch of different types of weapons. Vote on which one you want. And every time you donate, you can vote on what you'd like. And so at the end of the voting, we have a list of like, here's what the story needs, here's the characters that need to be in it, here are the weapons in it, and then it's handed over to the writers, and it's their job to make something coherent out of that. Last year's was difficult. I don't think I got everything in that was needed. And then the writer, me, in this case, had about a week to put something together. Because it's difficult to write something in 2 days when everyone's meant to be working on it at the same time. And then once that's finished, once that 2 days starts, then we give that writing to everyone else so they know, okay, we need this type of gun and we need these areas and we need these characters. And for 2 days straight, they pretty much work at putting together this mod. And the idea is at the end, we have something that works. I don't think we quite made it last year. We finished, but for some reason, it just wasn't compiling at the end. So we had to release the next day. But still, it is essentially
But you guys
2 days worth of it.
You're doing a game jam.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, I used to do those all the time.
amazing.
Those are some of the most fun I've ever had.
Fun is part of it, yes.
Tiring,
Stress,
exhausting.
Part of it, yeah. Some people decide to do it 24 hours straight. Those people are crazy. Most take a break for at least 6 hours of rest.
Yeah, I did one. Was a 48-hour game jam. One of the big worldwide ones. I forgot which one it was called, but I think in the 48 hours we had, I think I slept for 2 hours, and I slept at my desk at Buffalo Game Space where we were holding it. But it was so much fun.
Yeah, fun but stressful. I think you summed it up quite well there.
You talked a little bit about how the differences between working for Creations and before when you were all just independent. From your perspective, what was it like making that transition from just non-commercial kind of mod creation to doing things like the Watchtower?
I think for our team, it wasn't too different. So something I've noticed, just because I've been around for a while, I've sort of been at least enjoying the modding scene for 20, 25 years maybe. So I'm aware of tends to what goes into mod projects. I followed them, and there's been many over the years that I've had great interest in, and nothing happened. They got halfway being finished, or they released something that wasn't what they wanted, or sometimes there's infighting, and then sort of you have two teams all split off, and now you have one version of the mod and another, and it's chaos. And it's because it's so difficult to do something like that. It's everyone's volunteering their time. It's a creative process, and it's very chaotic. It's very up there. There tends to be maybe a few people in charge. Many people have their own visions of things. And so I've seen that happen many, many times. And I understand it. It's part of the creative process. But something interesting, which I found, which is probably why I wanted to stay with the Kinggath team, was how professional it was. It actually really impressed me, which is why I asked, hey, I want to stay on with you guys. Is there anything else I can do? And it was just everything was just so well put together, so well organized, very well executed. It really
shows, too.
It really does.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that I don't think I can take credit for. I think that's Kinggath himself.
Right.
He's the best boss I've ever had. And I've not really had that many bosses, because you don't really sort of have that kind of thing in theatre.
Right.
But I've worked with many people where you can tell they've got the creative vision. They can be extremely talented, but just keeping a team together and keeping them all on task and making sure everything runs smooth, that's a different skill in of itself. And I think it's really rare. So
absolutely.
I think we kind of looked out. The guy who runs the show, fantastic, best boss ever. And I'm not just saying that because he gives me money.
Well, that's just a
Nice.
bonus.
Let's get a little bit into Watchtower here, because I'm curious. What inspired you all to create Watchtower? Where did the idea come from? How did it start? And where did you come in on that?
So I think the initial idea was we wanted to aim for something not too big in scope, because previously we'd done the Bard's College expansion for Skyrim, and that was the biggest project we'd done, and the goal of that was to create something that was a faction quest long. So for those who might not know, in Skyrim, you can join the Bard's College. However, it's essentially one quest. Whilst all the other factions in the game, like the Thieves Guild, they have a whole series of quests. It's a whole storyline. And so I think a lot of players always found that was kind of underwhelming. So our goal going into that was, well, let's create something on the level of those other faction quests. So that was a big thing. We didn't want to do something that size for Watchtower initially. We thought, what's something small and contained and quite just to the point. And so that's what we went in with that. So the two things we started with were the skydrops that weren't called skydrops yet, and having a fleet. Those were the two things we thought, well, that's a cool idea. That's something we'd like to see in Starfield. It's mechanics that kind of would fit well into the game, but don't really have a purpose or a way of doing it. So let's say we can pull it off. The fleet thing, we were fairly sure we could do. The skydrop system, that took some experimenting. So those were the two things we started with. And I was given the task of, hey, create a story around this. Why do we need a fleet? Why do we need skydrops? And that's how it started. And it kind of got bigger than we intended initially.
I was going to say, it's not really a small contained thing.
It's not small.
No,
it is.
That's a pattern we seem to follow. We do feature creep, and we get excited about things, and we just kind of keep going, and then want to make what we've added to be as good as it can be, and that kind of ties into what makes it different when you work on, say, like a mod project, like some settlements, or something on a creation like Watchtower. You really have to catch yourself with that feature creep. We're not perfect at it yet, as Watchtower shows, considering that really wasn't our initial scope in terms of how big it is.
Right.
But I think in some ways it does show. If you compare, say, Watchtower to Bard's College, you can tell there was a bigger vision with Bard's College. We may not have got it as fully realized as we wanted, but it was close enough, and we were very happy with Bard's College. Watchtower, knowing how well it was received, I think if we could go back, we might spend like an extra 2-3 months on it, because we pay attention to the criticism out there, because it's often very valuable, and people tend to criticize the things they care about. So
yes,
we've seen some of the negative things people have said about Watchtower, and I can't disagree with some of them. And one of those things is the system of you have to go hunt the arrays in space to progress the story.
Yep, that's where I've been stuck.
Yep. That all of us on the team have said we wish we had a quest there where there was something more story based that happens during that sequence, instead of you just sort of being let free to go do what you want. That works itself, it's kind of okay, just go do what you want now and do it in the order you wish to. But I think both players and we thought it kind of feels like the story kind of just stops, and the part of that reason is because, well, we didn't initially envision it being as big as it was, so that quest didn't need to be there. And so that's one of the things where, if this was a mod project, we can just stall it for 5 months and work out something to put here that kind of works, because off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what should go there, but it does feel like something should be there.
Right. The only thing that's been kind of poking at me since I've started playing it is the separation between assigning crew using the Watchtower interface and assigning crew using your normal vanilla interface.
Now, I can't fully explain that because
I know you're not on the mechanical side.
I do know that initially was a limitation of we just couldn't do it with the way the base game works. Yeah. However, almost as soon as we released, I think we found out, actually we can do this now. There were some changes made, I think, in the recent patch that kind of meant, actually now we can do that. But we didn't know until the patch.
I think
so.
Yeah, notice that Bethesda's been kind of building creations more and more and more to give more and more freedom to the creators. I've noticed that since the beginning, and I think that's fantastic. Like, especially with the new, was it 2 gig update limit? No, that brings me to the question, actually. So I know that you guys can actually still support Watchtower through updating it. Do you guys plan to do that?
Absolutely. I think we've already released 2 patches. Those have mostly been bug fixes, so there's always bugs.
So I'm saying, if you guys wanted to add in a little story element for that array system, you could, technically.
Well, I'm not going to promise anything, because that is something, again, that's a difference between modding and something that's an actual product.
True.
Like, if we promise something, we got to put it in there. If it's just sort of a passion project, we didn't want to do it, so we didn't. There was stuff in Watchtower that we didn't get in there. There's some content we had to cut due to size limitations, so that 2 gigs is great, but it wasn't enough for everything we wanted to have with Watchtower. So
can you,
if that gets increased,
is it possible to tell us what you guys did cut?
So there are some side quests that we wanted to get in. There are some ways to skip. So how much should we go into spoilers here? That's a good question.
I'll leave that at your discretion, because it's still fairly new.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
So if you finish Watchtower and you go through the Unity, if you finish Watchtower in a particular way, it will play out differently next time you go through the Unity. Hopefully that didn't ruin too much for those who don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
No, that got my gears turning is what that did, because I have in my notes the stuff that I was talking about between what I played of Watchtower and speaking with a couple of our listeners in Discord. I was starting to develop theories. I'm going completely conspiracy brained here, so you're fine.
So we have some of that in right now. So if you go through, things will be different next time, as long as you did something during the main quest line in it. It should be fairly obvious what that is, I think.
Gotcha.
We have about half in of what we wanted to do, and then we just kind of ran out of space. So we couldn't finish that. Now, from what we've seen from stats, the majority of players don't go through Unity, or at least don't do it for a long time. We kind of decided, okay, do we just completely cut that content because we can't finish it fully, or do we just get in as much as we can and hope we can get more in later? And that's the path we went. So if you go through Unity, do some certain things during the Watchtower quest line, most of that content is there, but at a certain point you will almost certainly notice, hey, this doesn't make sense anymore. Or now there's a line to explain it. The main character Torin will kind of outright tell you it's very hanging the lantern which is a writing term, which means the writer is kind of saying, yeah, we know about that. And me saying that means we're acknowledging it. So when you notice it, we noticed it too. Like, we know.
Gotcha.
So he hangs the lantern on that saying, hey, if I start talking weird at some point and pretending this is the first time we've done everything, just go with it, okay? And that's kind of to cover us if we decided to go the route where we keep the content but just can't finish it. So
right, okay.
It's an awful way to do it, but the only other way would be just to completely remove all the content, and we didn't want to do that. So that's one thing. We want to finish some of the Unity variants of going through the Unity with Torin, and I think I've just spoiled it more than I intended to. You can go through the Unity, Torin will be there, and you'll have different things to say. So that's part of it. There are some small side quests to skip certain things, so if you've gone through the Unity 4 times, you're probably not going to want to do the intro quest again. So we have something there to skip that if you want to. There's a price for it, but you can kind of be like, well, I've done that 5 times. I don't want to do it again. And yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to be mad at players for that. And I think there's also 1 or 2 quests where we give you alternative ways to like get the computer cores, which you need to progress, or just get rid of excess gear where you're like, you know what, I don't need all these mech components. There's a way to sort of get rid of them and exchange them for something outside of just credits. So that's something else we had to cut just because we didn't have space and we didn't have time. So we'll try and get those in, but I think most of that is dependent on if we get up to maybe 3, maybe 4 gigs with creations. That would be nice.
Bethesda, we know you listen, so take this into consideration, please. We want more from Watchtower.
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, if I answer a question and I go off on a completely different tangent and ramble, just remind me what the original question is, because that's a very bad habit of mine.
Oh, rambling is
we're not going to be on top of that at all. Yeah, we're just as bad. It's all right. I do got to ask though, in Watchtower, obviously you've put a lot of work into it. Tell me what your favorite bit of writing from the mod is. What's a morsel that you're just really proud of?
I don't know if there's one thing that would stand out and I'd point at and say, you know what, I'm very proud of that. There are certain lines that make me laugh, and I'm not sure they'd make anyone else laugh. So when you get near the end, here's an example line where I just put it in purely because it just made me laugh. And I guarantee 90% of people who play it will be like, I don't understand why this is funny. When you get to the end content, you can speak to Gren, and Torin is there, and they're going through a whole thing. And basically Torin is explaining the plan to you. So he's walking through it step by step. And at one point, he just asks Gren to clarify something. He just says, hey, is the name of the station this? And Gren just says, yes. And then Torin says, okay. And then just continues. That should be removed. It serves no purpose other than like it's a normal conversation someone would have. Of like, wait a minute, what's that thing called? Is it this? Yeah, it's that. Okay. It's just because it breaks the flow of the conversation so strangely, it just cracks me up.
Right.
That's the only reason I kept that, because it made me laugh.
I had that same
There's a few
problem.
times that I will say something that's kind of just a one-word answer, and it just makes me laugh. Yeah, well, it's I think it's a problem you have as a writer. It's one of my rules is you cut as much as you can. Like, you want to keep as much meat on the bone and get rid of all the fat. Which is a problem I'd say a lot of writers have, even with AAA games these days. A lot of characters will say a lot without saying anything.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
And sometimes it's worthwhile. Some of that fat can be characterization, which is always good to have. So, you want to leave a tiny bit there. If there's one criticism I've seen a few people throw at my personal writing, and I completely get it, is that it can feel too technical sometimes, because I trim maybe a bit too much of the fat, and most of what the character is giving you is useful information that you need to know, but there's no fat around it. So it's difficult to know sometimes where to draw that line. For example, in Watchtower, in the beginning few quests, when you're talking to, say, Gren in the beginning, he has to teach you how fleets work and how skydrops work. So he needs to explain things to you in a very technical way that's very straightforward, that there's not much room for you to misunderstand. And he also needs to explain it in a way that makes sense with the game mechanics, without him just telling you, hey, open up the menu, press the A button. Like, he can't do that, but he needs to do that. So sometimes the writing can maybe be a bit too dry, and I've seen that criticism, and I don't disagree with it. I just haven't figured out a better way to do it that isn't going to waste the player's time.
Well, honestly, that kind of made sense to me when I was playing through, because he 100% reminds me of the Borg, and that's exactly how they talk. So,
yeah, I kind of get away with it a tiny bit with Gren, because he would talk like that. So it makes sense for him to teach you a mechanical system.
Well, between Torin and Harper, I spent a lot of time cracking up at the beginning of Watchtower. Torin's dialogue is just choice. I absolutely love it. So
that's interestingly some other feedback I've seen of So we do playtesting, and we give it to playtesters, and we get feedback in terms of the mechanics, how things feel, are they confused anywhere? And some of the feedback is on writing and like characters and story. Most of the playtesters, if not all, seem to like Torrent. Fantastic, great. He's meant to be a bit silly, he's meant to be a bit playful. He's
right.
Spoilers. I think everyone figures this out, and if you're watching this, I'm going to assume you've seen enough Watchtower and know enough Starfield that Starborn, they're a thing. He's Starborn. It's really obvious. He kind of winks at you if you ask him about it. If you know what Starfield is, you know what Starborn are. And if you're playing the game for the very first time, then you, of course, don't know what that is. So why would you know he's Starborn? But if you've played it even once, you know what he is. Like, you can almost ask him, and he's just like, yeah, that's what I am. But let's talk about that later. And there's reasons for it in the story. But when writing him, some people didn't like how jovial he is, like how playful, how kind of, borderline silly he is, because he's a Starborn. Like, he's done this 5-6 times already. He's the player, essentially. He's messing around, he's having fun. He knows he's not going to die, and he can just redo things if he needs to. So he doesn't take it as seriously as maybe you should. And so that comes through in his writing. Some people don't like that, though. They didn't like how playful he was. That was a bit too much for them, in terms of... They felt it clashed with the base game dialogue because he's less serious because, well, he's Starborn. So he's not going to be as dry as some other characters will be because to him it's more of a game, which to you, the player, it's also a game. So that was very a bit calculated of, okay, some people might not like this. I hope most people do. And thankfully you do. So yay. Fantastic.
Yeah. So is there anything that we can look forward to from Kinggath in the future? Anything that you can talk about?
Oh, there's a few things. One of them I definitely can't talk about. And the second one I also can't talk about.
Okay.
We were hoping.
Fantastic.
Well, we have a very big thing we'd like to do. And if we get to do it, I think everyone will know, like, oh, that's what they were talking about there. So there's something very big, and we really hope we get to do it. But there's a lot of things we have to make sure are in line before we can even begin to hint that we can do it, because it might fall apart.
That's valid.
So that's one thing. A second thing, I'm fairly sure we can do, but we can't talk about that just yet. And it's not big, but it's going to be fun if we can do it. And there's something very cool we can do. But again, assuming that everything plays out there. And we are working on our next release at the moment. I don't think I can say too much about it. It's for Skyrim. It's nowhere near as big as Watchtower, so if anyone's like, oh my god, they're doing a second Watchtower. Not yet. That takes time. This is a much smaller project. It's more I was just having fun in Skyrim. We're introducing another system into the game, but it's much more simple than most of the stuff you'd find in Watchtower. That should hopefully be out in a few months at least. I don't know how much time.
We'll be looking forward. We'll be looking forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll probably start making posts about it soon of hinting about things and sort of giving hints. But it's going to be for Skyrim, so that's as much I think as I can say so far.
Beautiful.
So at least we know that you guys are working on some things and some apparently big things. So that's good news.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, big things. And at the very least, even if all that stuff doesn't pan out and it turns out we can't do it, we have other ideas. There's still more in Starfield we want to do for sure. Seeing the response from Watchtower, I wouldn't be surprised if we revisit it somehow. We almost certainly will be adding more content into Watchtower itself, especially if that 2 gig limit gets lifted. There's more we want to get in there. Some of the stuff we had to cut, some of the stuff that we have heard from player feedback where we think, that's a good idea. Let's put that in there.
Fingers crossed.
And also maybe some future content, maybe a different creation. Again, no promises there. This is just something I would like to see personally.
Sure.
I've seen some people who maybe don't like the mechanics of Watchtower, but like some of the story implications. So maybe that's something we can work on. I wouldn't be against it.
That's fair enough. Is there anything that you would like to promote?
I'd say just the charity that we've got coming up soon. So it's Fallout for Hope. If anyone wants to check it out, you can just Google it. So Fallout for Hope. Or you can check out the Kinggath YouTube channel. I'm fairly sure we'll be talking about it soon. And anyone who's interested, stop by. Watch us make a game in a few weeks. I think it's for Fallout again, so we're making a mod for Fallout 4. Makes sense because of the charity name.
Sure.
But besides that, hey, if you liked Watchtower, we got a whole bunch of other stuff. Kinggath Creations, we've got a website where we host all our things. Or you can just go on YouTube and you can see people play our stuff and check it out if you think it's interesting.
Richard, it was great having you on, man.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It was a blast, and we would love to have you on, or anyone else from Kinggath that wants to come talk to us as well. Just drop us a line and we'll make it happen.
On the team. Yeah, we have there's a many people besides me, something that Kinggath often has to say is people assume it's just him on the team because it's called Kinggath Creations. But there are many people. I am just one of them. I just do the writing. We have very talented other writers who have joined us on other projects. So Bard's College, it wasn't just me who wrote that. We had Cynical Bounce, who is our lead artist, but she also does writing sometimes. We had ND Cowdy, who came in to do some writing for the Emissary questline. We have our implementers, so we have SAG, we have Imperial. They mostly do implementation work. We have our 3D model guy, who, if you liked the Watchtower suit, you can thank Shadow for that. We have Kobis, who's our main voice director, so he finds the talents who comes in and provides voices for us, and he does the scripts, he does the directing, he does the editing of that. We have Jazz, who does the music, so I'm sure a lot of people heard that Watchtower has some new music, and that's because we had someone get in to do that, and that was Jazz. So we have a whole team of people, so I will pass it on, and I'm sure each of them can talk about some very interesting stuff that they get to work on that I barely understand.
Absolutely. We'd love to have him on the show.
Look forward to it. Absolutely.
Thanks again so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right, so I think it's time that Kilo and I get into our play of the week, what we've been up to, and admittedly, I didn't get as much Watchtower time as I wanted to because I realized something. I'm at the point where Richard talked about having to do that section where they go after the arrays. And I went to go after one of them, picked one at random. And when I got there, I jumped into a fleet of at least 20. My brain just blanked. See, it's that podcast curse.
Drones?
The Watchtower fleet. And it was like most of them were battleships.
Oh, wow.
I jumped in there, and I'm facing this entire wall of fleet at me, and I'm just like, oh, crap. And before I said crap, it was boom, I was blown up. So I went and did another one. It was the same kind of thing, just a little bit less, more drones. I needed a new ship, because I'm on a character that was a challenge character. I was doing everything straight, didn't cheat anything. So I've been saving up money to build my own ship, and I'm still maybe a quarter of the money I needed to get a new ship, and I'm still flying the Star Eagle, so it's a Class A. So I cheated.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I went in and used my little command and gave myself, at first, 300,000.
That's not enough.
So that made me like 450,000 roughly. Yeah, it was not enough. The ship I built went about 80,000 past that. So I dropped myself another 300,000, said, why not? Screw it.
There you go.
And the funny thing is I haven't built a ship in Starfield in so long that, I forgot how to do it. I was sitting there trying to
So after you built the ship and hopefully got everything working, did you find that the fights were easier, or were they still really hard for you?
Okay, I'm going to get in that in just a second, because that's a very good point, something I am going to bring up. I did make the ship Class C. I had to go to my own video I did in YouTube on how to build ships, to remind myself on how to build ships, and figure out how to get things to snap in. And
your own video? You went back to your own video?
I did. How bad is that? Went in there, did it, finally got it. I call it the Snapdragon. I don't know why that name came to mind. It just kind of seemed like that to me. And it's at least 10 times stronger than a Star Eagle.
Yeah.
Fully upgraded weapons.
Sin,
yeah, it's dog ugly. It's terrible. But I wanted something that was going to function. And it functions. And it functions very, very well for that combat. Good maneuverability, great weapon system. And I even went and upgraded the weapons in Star Eagle, because that's the only ship I can have in my fleet currently. I only have one. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I did just that. I went right back to the same one where I got pretty much gang raped by 20 Watchtower ships. Yeah. And I lasted probably a good 10 minutes before they blew the crap out of me.
So there was an improvement.
There was a significant improvement. I didn't just say that, oh, crap, and boom, dead. This time I was actually, oh, crap, and went in there and went fighting. And I think I took at least 5 or 6 of them out.
I think it has a little bit to do with tactics as well. I'm just saying. I'm not saying because with the very first array, I went in, I got a Class B, I got the Frontier riding Wingman as my Class A, and I was like, all right, just destroy the array. And I got some good firepower on my ship, and I just focused on the array. I ended up getting smoked. I just kept getting all these flashes, all these drones were just jumping in. I got smoked. Yeah. The next time I went through, I focused on the drones, and then all of a sudden the array was destroyed, and I'm not even sure how that happened. I think maybe the Frontier took it out.
Yeah, Frontier, yeah. You're using the Frontier as your fleet ship?
No, yes, my Wingman, Torrens on the Frontier. I got my Praying Mantis, my Razor Leaf.
Very nice. So, well, I know it is a lot about that, and I'm wondering, and since, I don't know if you know, Richard, or not, but are these, like, the amount of ships that appear at these arrays, are they a set amount or is it something that is randomized?
Okay, so to the best of my understanding, they are based upon many factors. So I think this works. I think we're having trouble with it almost up until release, but I've seen it working a few times, so hopefully for most people it's working as well. When you're on the map and you can see, the Starfield,
Right.
if you move your cursor over a system, there should now be something that tells you how active Watchtower is in that particular system.
Oh,
So
okay.
So if they're very active, that means they're likely to jump in, so there's greater chance of that, and that their fleet will be bigger.
So I'm guessing the one I went to was heavily active because they had a fleet of 20 of them sitting there waiting for me.
Possibly. It's also based, I think, on player level and system level as well. So there are kind of multiple factors which increase the size of the fleet.
That all tracks.
Also,
Makes sense.
once you get into the main gameplay loop, there are minor arrays and major arrays. Minor arrays should tend to have like a small fleet that jumps in, but taking them out doesn't get rid of... It only gets rid of the array in that system. Taking out a major array gets rid of that, and then all the surrounding minor arrays as well. But
I think it was a minor array that I was going after.
Okay. Something else we've also found out, though, after release and after reports back from people is there does seem to be something behind the scenes that wasn't set up right conditionally. So it does seem that people were getting slightly bigger fleets than we intended at certain points. So some people, if you were absolutely wiped out by Watchtower and it didn't feel fair, it probably wasn't. And we're trying to balance that out.
Well, that's my luck. If I'm going to find a bug, I'm going to find it.
I'm not sure if this is in or it'll be in the next patch. We're adding in a slider as well. So if people still find the fights are too hard and there's too many Watchtower ships, you can turn that slider down so the amount of vessels that come in should be less.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's not in now, it will be in the future. And that's just because even if we balance it perfectly, some people might just not enjoy it. So that's there now if those fights are a bit too hard for you. Or if they're too easy, you can turn it up and get way more ships.
I do enjoy the fights. They are some of the most fun aerial battles I've been into, especially because I have a wingman now. The whole fleet system is my
difficult to balance.
Favorite part. Yeah, I bet it is. I can, from experience, I know how hard that could be.
Oh, and I did find out, I believe it was in our Discord, someone mentioned there is a switch under gameplay settings. You can turn off the follower. So if you're off doing other stuff and it's a little bit too easy because you have a fleet of your boys rolling deep with you, you can turn that off and it will get rid of the Watchtower fleet.
Here's another idea. How about you upgrade the ship battle settings to extreme? Now, if you're on easy and complaining it's too easy, that's their problem. It's not the fleet.
Thankfully, most people seem to think it's just enough to be fun and a challenge. And that was obviously the goal. But it's difficult. Yeah. As you said, you went in with a ship that just wasn't ready for it and you got wiped out. And yeah, that's going to happen. But maybe some people just don't want to engage with that. And unfortunately, you kind of have to now because that's what Watchtower's about. So I definitely understand that people who installed it's like, I hate this system. Like I hate fleet fights and all that stuff. But if they at least wanted to engage in a fight but not do it personally, well, that's what your fleet is for. Like you get 8 ships and you kit them out well and put a good pilot there. You can just hang back and let them deal with it. But it does require a lot of working towards that. And if you don't find that kind of fun, yeah, maybe Watchtower isn't for you, unfortunately. Because fleets control and skydrops. I think that's kind of there in the title.
The skydrops are a blast too. I love those.
Yeah,
I love calling in airstrikes. Something that when we first started talking about Starfield a long time ago, when we first started a show called Starfield Raw, was I wanted some kind of interaction. Well, we talked about having some kind of fleet because we have all these extra ships. They're just sitting there. Can't use them. We have extra crew that could possibly man them, but we don't. Well, that's one reason why I was saying that Watchtower felt more like an expansion than the actual expansion felt like, because we added new systems of the game that made sense.
I don't know for sure. This is pure conjecture. I don't have any secret ins at Bethesda. But to me, Shattered Space felt like something that kind of was meant to be in launch, and they just had to postpone it. Like, there were reasons they had to say, we can't launch with this. Let's just push it back, maybe make it into a DLC. I don't know for sure. Maybe it was always planned to be DLC.
No,
but it kind of feels like in the base game, where's House Faroon? Where are they? It felt like there was going to be a quest in the base game of dealing with this group.
I think that was actually meant to be the 4th faction, but instead they had to move it to Crimson Fleet.
But because of that, when they released it, as you say, they didn't really expand on it. I think it just felt like, this kind of should have been in the game to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I think I saw an interview somewhere with Todd where he said we should have delayed the buggy to be released with Shattered Space. And everyone was kind of mad at him for that. But I understood what he meant in terms of development.
Yeah.
Because then it would feel like a new system that was introduced, and so it's expanding rather than just
That was
a
my biggest
continuation
complaint with
of-
that with that whole DLC was the fact it didn't introduce anything new.
Mm.
It had
So they kinda-
huge story
kinda
content,
shot
which was
themselves in the foot.
great, but
It's people were mad at them for that, and they were mad at the statement of like they should have delayed the buggy and bundled it with that. But that's kind of what they wanted. So it's like I get what they're saying in terms of, oh, so you're just gonna delay content and put it into this thing, but they gave it to players for free as just like an update patch. And whilst that should have been good, it kind of just didn't work. Like there's no good thing they could have done there where players wouldn't have been mad at them. Like, oh, you delayed the buggy and included it with this. It should have been free. Oh, you made it free.
Right.
You should have included it with that. But I can kind of understand what Todd was saying in terms of like, yeah, we should have delayed that because it felt then like you get a new system with the expansion. And maybe they should have included one or two extra things.
yeah.
But like I said previously, that's the benefit we have of we get to go in and see the finished game that Bethesda's made and see the gaps where we could put something cool. Whilst Bethesda has to make the game. Like that's a lot more work than what we do.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit because a lot of our listeners have been playing Fallout 76, and it's a game I got addicted to a couple years back and just kind of shelved for a long time. And that's one of the games that Bethesda is constantly updating. That and ESO, they're two online games. So I made a new character because I have a level, I want to say 92, I think, that I originally played. And when I got into the game, I could not remember how to play him, what I was doing, anything. So I remade a character. And he starts at level 2. And you get the option to either start at level 20 or level 2 now. So you can jump right into content, or you can relearn everything at level 2, which is what I did. And walking into the open world of Appalachia, yeah, I missed it. I missed that feeling of that game. Just the open feeling of it and what you can do. It's Fallout 76. Those who don't know, it's definitely a core Fallout game. It's what introduced me to the Fallout series. What made me learn the lore and everything about Fallout. Because I really didn't play much of the other games. I know, everyone collective groan. But I didn't. And it was my buddy, it was actually Rook who got me into it a long time ago. And so I got into it with him. And now I'm starting it all again, remembering my love of it. And it's also got a lot of like these, I know it's common in Fallout 4. I think Fallout 3 too. It's got more of a survival mechanic to it. You got base building, food and water. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but does Fallout 4 have like a food and water meter as well?
No, but they introduced survival, which has you have to eat. I think it's been so long since I played vanilla Fallout 4, so I can't off the top of my head be like, oh yes, they have all these systems because I'm sure I'm going to mix it up with no, that's a mod. A mod does that.
I'm almost positive it's food, water, sleep, no fast travel.
Yeah, that sounds right. And I think it's just only you get debuffs. I don't think there's anything too bad if you don't engage with it.
Well, it's a big factor in Fallout 76. They introduced a heavy survival feel to it. That was the original intention of the game anyway, was to just let people go into this blank map and do their own thing, which failed. So they actually had to create a story for it, which they did. And now it's got a very extensive story to it, and it's a lot of fun too. And
how do you find the difference between the launch version of 76 and what it is now? Like, is the one you just
games.
Like? It really is. But like, which one? If you had to pick just one to play?
Oh, the current one for sure.
Okay, so all the stuff's been added. That's enough to sort of make it into what it maybe should have been at launch for you.
Exactly. There's 3 games I can think of off the top of my head that completely failed on launch, and they just didn't build the game that people wanted, and they stopped it, rebuilt it, relaunched it, and it became that game and became hugely successful off of that. 76 is one of them. So everything they added into it was well worth it.
Just took them a while.
Yeah. Which, they did it. That's the point. They took a game, took the criticism very seriously, rebuilt it into the game that people wanted, and released it. And now it's fantastic. So it has MMO elements to it as well, like doing map events and things like that you can do with other people. But the largest server is 24 people. And you can actually get little private servers, up to 8 people, that you can do when you pay for the monthly subscription, which is a lot of fun if you have 4 or 5 people you play with or less. And the base building is one of the best parts of that game, in my opinion. Love it.
I got to get back into it.
Yeah.
I got to give it another shot. Listen, 3 times you fail me. I can't. I was so upset. No audio. Everything else was working fine. I just had 0 sound as soon as I stepped outside of the vault. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's a bad bug. I had one bug I dealt with for a little bit. I turned the game off, went back to it a couple hours later, and when I came in, my aspect ratio kept going to a weird aspect ratio, making everything look stretched.
Huh.
So I had to go in, reset it. It says, okay, you have to restart the game for changes to take effect. restarted the game, went back in, and it did another random one. After the third try, it eventually stuck, and my monitor is a 3440 by 1440. It's a big widescreen, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just an odd aspect ratio for it or what, but finally it stuck, and I just dove right into the game. And I'm trying to make this character to not be a sniper. I was thinking of doing like heavy weapon specialist or something. I can't not do
for
sniper.
For the uninitiated, Wigit is a sniper.
Yeah, every
That's
game I
his
play,
thing.
it's a thing. Starfield,
pretty
sniper.
much.
My first character in Fallout 76, sniper.
I think that's just how you tend to. Bethesda games are made that way, where it really benefits you to be long range, and you're a long range archer or you're a sniper, and
Yeah, especially with
you
Skyrim.
just don't know.
Skyrim and Fallout 76, they beg to be sniped. I found a short barrel 308 hunting rifle early in the game, right outside Bunker 76. What do you want to call it? Why can't I think? It's podcast curse.
Vault.
The vault you come out of. Thank you. Jeez, what the heck is wrong with me? I found this.
Bunker.
Yeah, I got a 308 short barrel. It's like, okay, it's iron sights. I can use this like a regular rifle. No, I went up sniping with the damn thing. See someone downrange, boom, shoot them. Kept doing that, and then I got all my perks that you get every level. I picked the card perks, and I was like, I'm not going to pick sniper. I'm not going to pick sniper. I have now twice upgraded sniper card.
Wigit, you can't fight your nature, man.
I can't.
Can't fight who you are.
And then there's this early mission where you have to go take out this gang leader at a lumber mill. And why do they have to put so many perfect sniper perches and sniper nests all around this place? Heavily elevated above it. It's just like, yeah, it's like dangling a whole bunch of candy to a starving kid. It's going to happen.
Right.
And the thing about this quest is they hand you like 4 or 5 different ways you can do this quest.
Right.
You can go talk to a guy and he'll give you 3 stealth boys. So you could turn invisible for a minute and a half total and sneak on in. You can go talk to a farm and they'll give you a little code that they'll just escort you into the building. No, I stood up on a hill and blew up and killed everything in sight. And then I used a stealth boy inside the building, snuck up to the boss, and here's the fun part. You have to go down to a mine shaft at the bottom of this building.
Yeah.
And you can hear him talking, the boss, to his like first in command or something like that. You go down there, and all I saw was his head poking up at the very far end of this cavern between 2 little boards, just framing it perfect. How can I not take that shot?
It's like, might as well have a target on the back of his head. Shoot here.
So, of course, his head popped. I giggled and went in. Was able to sneak in. His commander or whatever he was like, where are you? Where are you? And I shot him in the back. Yeah, it was too tempting. And I did 356 damage. And when you're a level 5 or 6 I was that time, that's a lot. Just took him out one shot. Didn't have to worry about the fight or nothing. Just done. And then the quest updates to leave the gang a message. And the first thing that came to my mind was, what? Am I supposed to sit there with a Post-it note and stick it to the fridge? And eventually,
I think you already sent a message.
Yeah, I think I did too. Their leader is headless on the bottom of the cavern, and no one saw anything. And I thought about it, it's like, yeah, I didn't leave anyone alive to even get this message, so it's kind of pointless. Yeah, that was my beginning
Gone out
of
for
Fallout.
milk. Be back later.
Yeah, right. Any new leader? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Elections in 3 days.
I'm gonna stop rambling now.
Well, I would love to talk more about my play, but we actually got into quite a bit of it throughout our conversation with Richard. I did, I got into the Watchtower mod, obviously, loving it. I did go back because I was trying to get rid of Sam, so I ended up having to go back to Aquila and start. I started the Ranger mission where you have to pull it from the mission board. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take care of this. I'm gonna go back. I'll start the Ranger stuff. I'll go back to Aquila. I'll do Sam stuff. I'll get it out of the way, and then I'll start the Watchtower. Watchtower had a whole different idea because I left off of Jaffe 4, and as soon as I got back into orbit, boom, I was ambushed by Watchtower.
They will do that.
Yeah, they weren't going to let you ignore it.
No, absolutely not.
Well, actually, that reminds me of something that we actually had a discussion about. So, something that Bethesda does a lot when they introduce like downloadable content or creation content is as soon as you purchase it. So Fallout 4 is a good example. As soon as you leave the vault during the intro sequence, if you've got a lot of creations from like the creation store, or I forget what they were called previously, but you could buy a lot of content. All the quests would suddenly fire off at once because now you're out in the open world and you can do them right away. But for a lot of people, that feels really bad because like, well, I want to do the beginning parts of the game and scrounge about for equipment and get my bearings before I go off and do all these random adventures.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. They do it because you've paid for something. You should have it right there and then. Like, it seems unfair to make players maybe wait until they're level 5 or until they go to a particular area or whatever. So the Bethesda policy seems to be when you get content, it's there right away because you paid for it. And I'm sure people would be mad if it's like, well, I don't want to do all these extra things. I want it now. So when we made Bethesda, it's like, okay, do we follow that pattern? Oh, sorry, when we made Watchtower, you can tell I'm getting a bit tired now. When we made Watchtower, do we follow that pattern of you have this available right away, or do we delay it? And there's many ways we could have delayed it. You know, you have to be a particular level. You have to get so far in the main story. So what we decided to go with is you can kind of delay it because it won't trigger until you jump to at least the level 15 system. And we thought that might be just enough to delay it until players can, you know, do the first intro quests, get comfortable with the game, and it's not until they go out exploring that they're going to suddenly have Watchtower jump out and say boo. Right. Now, we thought that might be enough, but it turns out a lot of people feel like, oh, it's a bit too soon. Like, I wasn't expecting them to come this soon, and sort of now they're a threat and I have to deal with them. The flip side is, if we didn't do that, then they're not really much of a threat now, are they? So that was something difficult that, like, we had to try to balance, and I don't begrudge Bethesda now as much because they kind of have to do the same thing of when do they introduce something and when feels good. So I'm hoping you didn't feel as if like, oh God, I don't want to deal with this now. Hopefully it was a nice surprise of them ambushing you out of nowhere.
No, it was. I actually enjoyed it. It was actually a lot of fun. I kind of knew a little bit what was coming. I did watch Kinggath do a Let's Play over Memorial Weekend. So I knew a little bit of what I was going into. I did try to fight my way out. It did not work. But it was a lot of fun. I had 2 exceptions with the first mission of Watchtower. When you're going through that facility,
the frozen one.
I lost quest markers a little bit throughout that, but I managed. Like, I kind of figured out how to get through it, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I did go back and forth a couple times. I'm like, it'll be there, and then I'll get to a certain point, and then it'll disappear completely. And then I pass it, and then it pops back up, and then I go back, and then it disappears. It was a little bit wacky. I did get that room, however, with the robots, where they're all standing still. Mm-hmm. Super creepy.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I tried to take them out ahead of time. Could not.
No?
Nope. You can't do any damage to them.
I did.
However...
I blew up like 5
Did
of them.
you?
Yeah.
I kept shooting at them. Nothing was happening. But not that big of a deal, because once I got done with the switches, they were all nice and neatly funneling themselves into a bottleneck in that hallway right outside the room. So it was quick work.
I think the logic there is they were active until you turned the security alarm off in like the previous room. And so they all kind of went offline. I think that's what is meant to be happening there. And so when you enter the room, they're all powered down. But when you flip that switch, like, it triggers them to turn back on. Gotcha. I think the first 3 switches, I think they're random. So I think 1 opens the door, 1 gives you an electric shock, and 1 reactivates all the robots. So you can get past them, I think, without reactivating them, but I think it's random.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I was wondering that because I looked at the panel, I went back to the computer, and I was reading the file on the computer again, because I was like, okay, well, it doesn't say which is which. And it literally says, it's actually kind of funny because I kind of cracked up a little bit because it sounds like the scientist or researcher or the technician who was writing that log was just completely exasperated with everybody. He's like, look, we don't have to label it. If you don't know, don't touch it. And I didn't get the electric shock, though, so I was happy about that. I hit the first 2. I guess I got lucky on that one.
You can just flip all 3 of them.
I did.
I could have.
There you go.
Oh, you did? I hit the first 2, and it did what I wanted it to do, so that was it. It wasn't big red button syndrome on that one.
Well, but, did you see that room, though? This is where I got frustrated. Where they had all those fancy, cool weapons locked up behind all that glass?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I spent an hour trying to figure out if I could get into them.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe we should add a way.
I just kind of struggled.
Maybe you have to like spend a bunch of credits or something to unlock a computer and then get access to them. 'Cause obviously you can't get them because we're giving you 100 guns. Now you've got like a bunch of things you can sell, and that kind of changes the balance of the game. And
makes sense. It does make sense.
But we want them to be there because it looks cool. So I imagine that was
fair enough.
That was the reason they're there, but you can't get them. But
yeah, the gunaholic in me was drooling at every one of those cases, thinking, "I want you." I couldn't get to him.
Who was it? I know Kinggath mentioned the person on his stream. Who was it that was responsible for filling the spaces? Because the clutter and the different, the shelving and the chairs and the tables and everything that populates the space is just, it was also something that was very well, especially the large room with the Corvette and the mech in it.
Yeah.
I imagine that would have been Ares. So he's our level designer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be a designer's job.
Yeah, he built most of the areas and did some of the cluttering for them as well. For the Stardock area, some of the cluttering there was done by Cynical Bounce. She's our lead artist. And I imagine Ares may have done a tiny bit there as well. But most of what you find, and especially the points of interest, that's all Ares. So I think, commissioned him for 3 points of interest and then variants on them. I think he ended up doing 5. So because that's a base game issue of, you go to one area and you go there again and, it's the same area. And the layout's exactly the same. And so I think he very much wanted to avoid that as much as he could. So I think he put in extra work there. So yeah, definitely kudos to Ares. I've heard a lot of people say very nice things about the level design, and that's pretty much all him.
If I were to pick any job in game development that I could do, it would not be the person that has to populate just, all right, here's a room. It's massive. Figure it out.
My favorite part of being a level designer was
building my own ships in this game.
Yeah, was doing the layout of the environment. That was my favorite part. Doing the interior design, clutter and stuff like that. That was my least favorite part.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The decorating of my ships. I can't stand it. I think one of our listeners, Mossy, is currently working on a bar on his ship, painstakingly. Yeah. And I'm just fascinated with it. The fact that he has the patience to do that. It's amazing. So I did end up, I got through Watchtower to the point where Torrin is like, all right, go off and investigate the vision-giving artifact. I believe that's a direct quote. Come back and talk to me later. I ended up leaving there. I was like, I'll go back with it because I still got to get rid of Sam. So I went and did Sam's thing and talked to Jacob and got the map and went to the Shaw Gang's camp and did that whole thing. I actually had a great shot. What was it? I think it's the second room when you go through the gate. There's just 2 people just standing there. I mean, just standing there, not doing anything.
A target-rich environment.
Target-rich environment. And I got the dead eye now.
Oh.
So, pop. That was it. It was beautiful. I got to get that up on the Discord. I'm pretty sure I got a recording of that. Joined the Rangers, and then I went and got Barrett, and then I went and, of course, got our boo, Andreja.
Yes, my lady.
And yes, indeed. And then I made it to the viewport because I'm like, all right, I got to start making ships. I got to get these crew hired so that I can man the ships as soon as I get more than one additional ship in my fleet. Anybody who's listened to the show knows I'm big into my shipbuilding. I love my ship mods. So I'm loving all of this. So I was preparing for it. And then, so I got Simeon and Marika and Gideon, as well as, I think, an energy weapon specialist and one other one that were all in the viewport.
I still have never done that. The other 2 were. My hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in Starfield, I have never picked up someone from a bar.
Well, I would say that you have
too much like real life.
Good, right? No, I've spent an obscene amount of money on people, ladies in the bar. I've never actually successfully picked one up at a bar either. I got my wife at a restaurant. Yeah, so I ended up going into the shipbuilder, and I was just agonizing over the ship because I got my Razor Leaf right now is a Class B, but it's a tiny ship, so it's under 40 by 40 meters.
Okay.
And I'm like, I want to do a big ship, right? This is going to be part of my fleet, make it like a flagship, a capital ship.
Something, yeah, that makes sense.
I'll just drive myself crazy. I thought, but then I stopped and thought about it. I'm like, why is this not a fire support ship instead? A big old Class C. So I think I'm going to go back in. I'm going to keep the Razor Leaf, my home ship, because she's zippy, she's well armed. She could take a beating, and then have my sky drops coming off of my big, like having a capital ship, providing fire support. I don't know. It just felt right to go that direction. So I think that's what I'm going to go do.
That was sense.
That was my whole week.
So I don't know if you remember, but my main character, before I went into the Unity again on his 11th time, I had was it 4 ships that I custom built and designed on that character. And
was that the one you built, the jumping spider?
Yep.
Was that the jumping spider? Oh, okay, cool.
And a couple others. And my main fighter, and I had a cargo ship I used that was also heavily armed to the teeth because that's just what I love. And I kept thinking, I even said on the show, like, it would be so amazing if I could have a fleet of these ships that I built supporting me throughout this.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Now you can. If you grab Watchtower.
Yeah, absolutely. So much fun.
Well,
you want to get into a little bit of news?
Yeah.
Well, right off the rip here, I got some news about Skyrim Granny. Are you familiar with her?
Uh-huh.
Yep. Well, she did announce that she was going into retirement last year, but she has recently come out of retirement, and I'm not even sure you can call it retirement because I checked out her YouTube page, and she's been constantly making videos. But she is playing Oblivion Remastered.
Nice.
So if you want to go see her do that in all of her heartwarming glory, her name is Shirley Curry, SHIRLEYCURRY, and she is on YouTube, and she is delightful.
She is awesome. There's a reason why people know about her.
Let's see. We got a couple of new things coming out for 76. We got, Gone Fishing is now live.
I was checking that out today, actually. That you can actually fish in it now.
People, that is the only play. You know, last game I fished in was Red Dead. I don't even fish in real life. I'll fish in a video game.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
In Minecraft, some of my go-tos. In most games that allow it, I'm doing it at some point.
Yeah, I did like it in Red Dead. I don't know. The mechanics, I guess. So if you want to go fishing in Fallout 76, you got that. We also have Part 1, Seasons of the Worm Cult, is now live on PC for Elder Scrolls.
Mm-hmm. ESO?
Elder Scrolls Online, yeah.
Yeah, that's another game I'm itching to get back into.
Yeah, that's another one that would ruin my marriage.
And I have got to play together, man.
You want to do that one rather than 76?
That's a tough choice.
Personally, I'd rather go with ESO.
Then ESO it is.
Okay. It's a date.
We'll do it.
So, in case you were not aware, it was confirmed. I know because I bring this up because we had mentioned it previously. It was confirmed that Bethesda was going to have a presence at the Xbox Games Showcase on June 8th, which will be Sunday, 2 days from when this episode drops. They did say that there would be news and updates and announcements coming for that.
And of course, we're going to cover it. We'll be glued to the screen during that day, and we'll cover it on our next episode.
Yes, we will. Absolutely. Unless it's really groundbreaking, and then we might have to do a 1.5 widget.
Which can happen, yes. I agree.
So I did find an interesting video on YouTube. A former Bethesda artist explains why there isn't gore in Starfield, and I found this on X from Cal/Beyond Bethesda. And mostly it boils down to the mechanics and the complication involving the spacesuits and how to make it actually look good and make it work with the physics of the environment.
Yeah, I never appreciated gore in games, and I was probably good with Starfield not having any gore.
Listen, fair enough. However, I did get the bloody mess perk pretty much every time I played Fallout because it was hilarious to me. I know that's not your thing, but it was funny to me.
Well, I gotta admit, like popping that boss leader's head in Fallout 76 was kind of satisfying.
Yeah, see,
in a weird, sadistic way. I don't know if I should have said that on the air.
Come over to the dark side. Join us, the rest of us, with our depression and trauma. We have cookies and Xanax. All right, so now we also got Oblivion Remastered is just dropped one major update. A second one is coming to fix quality of life, a lot of gameplay bugs.
And I want people to understand that they're probably never going to add content updates to this.
Yeah.
Because it's an old game that's remastered, so don't expect
probably not,
it.
But I don't even mind that. I just want to be able to, like, there's certain things about the game we've talked on the other show about that if they fix it, then I might get back into it. They had a couple of things that were enough to keep me away from the game. And the last piece of news that I have today is there is going to be a Fallout horror house at Universal for their Halloween celebration.
Is that Florida or Hollywood? Or both?
Hang on a second.
Yeah, I didn't look.
I don't know. I didn't even know there was one in California. Hollywood and Orlando. Both of them.
Sweet. I'm about 40 minutes away from the one in Orlando or in Hollywood. So
it's based on the popular Bethesda Game Studios games and features a post-apocalyptic wasteland of the retro American West. Tickets are on sale now for the event, which kicks off on August 29th in Orlando and September 4th in Hollywood. So there's that.
Okay.
That's your news for the day.
Yeah, that's a lot. We've had a lot this episode. And normally we have 2 other segments we like to put in the show, or 3 technically. Just as a reminder, everybody, if you have your favorite quest in any Bethesda game and you want us to talk about it on the air, put it in our Discord, and we will be glad to most likely cover it. Also,
Absolutely.
We have a little Hey Bethesda segment. If there's something that you've been itching to tell Bethesda that you want from one of their games, or a new game idea, anything regarding Bethesda, again, you can email us or you can drop it in our Discord, and it most likely will be covered on the air. And of course, our Around Discord, where we talk about what people are talking about on our Discord, the place to be. And we got a little bit of time if you want to cover a couple of these.
Just a couple of things, I guess. We had poor Drusillus was in there, had to delete and reload all of his mods.
Been there, done that.
Always fun. We talked about Mossy's bar and his ship, the Hermes. And I'll bring this one up because Hicks is one of my favorite listeners, and I'll tell you why. He makes these videos and takes these screenshots. I'm wondering why this guy's not an actual filmmaker, because he does so well with them, and they're so entertaining, and they are kind of a little indie filmish.
Yeah, there's some of them I sat there scratching my head like, huh?
I know, but I enjoy them. I follow him on TikTok and something else. I don't know. My head's swimming from social media the last week. I've been on all of them, and they just all blur together at this point. Yeah. So he is in our Discord, and he has been posting a lot of mech pictures, actually. So come in our Discord and check that out.
We'll give you all that information at the end of the show.
That's pretty much all I got.
Speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here.
Alrighty. I want to thank Richard again for joining us this episode. It was nice of you to stick around and hang out and chat with us.
It has been a pleasure. I'm just sorry I rambled on so long that you had to cut out content.
And don't
even worry about it. We do the same. Like you don't understand. This is our modus operandi. This is standard operating procedure. It happens every
Our show notes are more like our basic guidelines.
Yeah.
So we understand the structure of what we're going to do. What happens in between that is, well, let's roll some dice. We'll find it out.
Right.
I see.
Again, thank you, Richard, so much. One thing that would really help the show, if you are inclined to help us get the word out about the show and get us known and recognized, is if you could please give us a 5-star review on Spotify and iTunes. A written review is very helpful as well, and and subscribe to our show. Bethesda Unpatched is a Weird Chaos Media production.
Your hosts are Joe the Widget Wilson and Michael Kilo Litwin.
Produced, directed, and edited by me, Joe the Widget Wilson. Opening theme and outro by Joe the Widget Wilson.
Social media manager, Michael Kilo Litwin. Find all of our contact and social media links on our Linktree at linktree, linktr.ee/weirdkhaosmedia. WYRDKHAOS media.
Everybody have a fantastic week in whatever Bethesda gem you are playing.
Peace out.
Bye.